Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Prespective. The joint bill, the finance bill, the joint session that is expected, the presidential address, we will be talking about all of that. We will also be talking about the address of the Prime Minister as he spoke to the bureaucracy. All that he had to say, he talked about cuts. He said that the very little, the very minimum that they can do, they will do. But he talked about having faith. He talked about making sacrifices for a while so that the country, the nation can prosper. We will talk about all of that. We will also be talking about the very, very sad day as far as Kalsom Nawaz's funeral is concerned. It was held today. She's been buried. We will also be talking about her sacrifices for democracy, her own stature as a woman who contributed to the politics of Pakistan. I have with me Irfan, I have with me Shakeel Ahmed Ramay Saab. Thank you for joining us. He is CEO Zalme Foundation. And Irfan Ghouri Saab, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for being with us. Kanwal Shauzab, MNA from PTI. Thank you for joining us, Kanwal. Irfan Saab, certainly I will come to Irfan Saab. Shakeel Saab, I'm sorry. Shakeel Saab, to start off with you, like there have been a lot of things being said about the kind of cuts that we can expect from the finance bill amendments that are expected. There have been, rumors are strife. There is also a lot of headlines in the newspapers today saying that perhaps they will not contradicting themselves about the earlier statements about utility bills being increased and then saying no, they will not be increased. The tax base as far as taxing the professionals are concerned, now today there was denial that those will not be happening. In your opinion, what kind of cuts will we see?
First of all, Maroko, we have to look into the matter. So when this finance bill was being presented, at that time we was talking about, so government is doing, and I don't know what government is doing. Because at that point of time, so we were facing the fiscal problem.
Right.
Our tax base was shrinking, and we have witnessed it from the 2008 2018. So it's come from 2.4 million to 1.2 million.
Right.
So we were wondering at that time, so what government is doing, from where they will get the revenue.
Right.
The tax slabs, they are decreasing, they are giving the concessions, they are keeping the prices constant.
Right.
If you look at that, devaluation of dollar, that has a huge impact on the prices. The inflation would definitely increase, so definitely there would be some points we have to be dealt by the government. But important thing we have to keep in mind, this government, what would be they are trying to do, they have the baggage of the past, because in the 30 days they are not turn around the economy, because they are just trying to manage the economy which has been given to them.
Right, but you're saying that if they're not going to make those cuts that were earlier anticipated, where do they get the money from? Considering that the government has said that they will not go to IMF also.
The previous government and the last day, they artificially try to manage the stuff. At that time, we also wrote in the newspapers and different talk shows we talked about, this is not a fake economic budget. This is an election budget. Just trying to manipulate the stuff. So that was the thing. And for me, the PTI government cannot be blamed for this. If there was some increase, there was like that, because in 1 month they cannot do anything.
Right,
they have to
but
introduce
Shakeel,
the
I think that now, I'll come back to it, I'm going to go on to Irfan Saab, but the question now for us really, isn't it about, the blame is really not the issue anymore. The issue is really about how to deal with whatever cards we have on the plate for us. And if we don't have anything, whatever little we have, to make do with it. Isn't that the case, Irfan?
Maruk, I think it all started when the previous government, they presented that budget.
Right.
Before that, there was a debate that an outgoing government
shouldn't be, right.
That is, they shouldn't be giving the budget. Instead, what they could have done was that there was a proposal that they could have presented budget for 2, 3, 4 months, so that the new government which is coming, they can form their budget.
Right.
So whatever that budget was presented, that was, of course, because it was an election year, and immediately after the budget, I mean, that was one of the last things the previous assembly had done before it was dissolved. That was the passing of budget. So it was expected that they would be coming up with some populist measures, and it is natural that any party that is in the government, they do so. So the targets that they had set, some of them, most of the economists, they believe that they are unrealistic. Like the tax target, that is 4,435 billion rupees, which is much more than the target that was set last year and the one that we achieved. It was even, it is always,
Right.
it's been like that. You achieve the target that is, I mean, it's less than what you said. So it was much, much ambitious. And similarly, in PSTP, what the budget speech was, that it was 1,035 billion rupees PSTP.
Right.
But in the pink book that is provided, which is the actual paper, that is 800 billion rupees PSTP. So, but that too had, according to the new government, some of the measures, some of the proposals in that PSTP, they are politically motivated. So it is also expected that in the new finance bill, or the amended finance bill, they are going to slash it. So there would be some, what you would call, what the current government is calling the corrective measures. It's not the new budget or mini
Right.
budget.
Right.
Similarly, there will be some, we are expecting that tariff might be increased in some cases, and for every government, it is, they try to get maximum from the taxes. So maybe that there will be some more taxation measures we can expect.
Right. Kanwal, coming on to you, it's, do you think that, it has your government, it's our government now, but has the PTI government now realized that perhaps things are worse than they had expected?
I think everybody now is realizing that the things are much worse than we have imagined. Because when, when talking about the previous government,
Right.
when they were running the affairs, the state affairs, they were hiding many things which were not,
Right.
they never open things which they are, counting upon.
Right.
So obviously when you take over and when it's in your hands, then you have to decide where to go. And yes, he's right. Mr. Irfan is very right. It's not going to be a new budget.
Right.
It's the amended budget. And as Shakeel Saab said, that they were amazed why the outgoing government is
actually
presenting a
right.
budget.
Right.
And when we saw the budget, it was, a very pleasing budget to offer. And there were the most popular amnesty scheme. So there are, yes, some things which we need to slash and cut, because otherwise, then again we have to become a beggar. And already 500 billion a day we have to pay on the existing loans.
What kind of cuts do you think we can expect?
I'm one of the parliamentary secretary of Planning, Development and Reform. So I exactly know what's going to be, coming
Right,
out
but
of
in
the
your
bag.
opinion, I mean, I'm not.
It's premature that I disclose what the government is going to present in the assembly in the upcoming session. But trust me, it's not going to be a worse thing which people cannot afford. Like there's a phobia and there's a rumor going on that government is going to impose heavy taxation on the salaried class.
Right.
It's not, you have heard the Prime Minister,
Right.
it's not the case right now. As long as I know, the salary slab will determine the
How much
amount of
taxation?
tax.
Right,
Yes,
right.
and below 3 lakhs, nobody is going to be taxed heavily, and it's like for 3 lakhs it's 5,000. Below that is 450 rupees. Below that up to 1 lakh, it's 160 rupees, and 33 to 66,000 is just 83 rupees.
Right.
So we realize, and one thing I would like to say, that for next 2 years, be prepared to face the realities and the challenges as a nation, if we want some change in a real sense. Because if 2 years we just bring out the cosmetic things,
Right.
going out, taking more loans, loans and then giving relief to the to please our people, then this this vicious
same
cycle of loan
right. And
will
Imran Khan,
continue.
and the Prime Minister himself, he said categorically today that he wants everybody should be prepared to go through some testing times, in the sense that let's try and put the country back on the right path. When he spoke to the
Yes, and that was the
bureaucracy
reason
today.
why he spoke to the civil service. He's, he is taking into confidence all the institutions and the stakeholders of the relative institutions. Unless we reform our institutions, we cannot get back on the track of progress. If you compare us with the developed countries, what is the difference? Here, individuals are controlling the institutions, but in the developed countries, you see institutions are working independently. It's not about individuals, it's
Right.
about institutions. So if we have to strengthen our institutions, this is the time
To do
as a
it, right,
nation.
right.
If we have to bear some difficulty, get
That's
ready to bring this country back to the right direction.
Right.
And the previous baggages which we are now having right now,
Right.
we have to get rid of the baggage once and for all. It's not that we have to, take the cosmetic measures, as I stated before.
Right. Right.
One thing
Shakeel
I
sir.
just want to add here.
Yes.
Let's try to understand the economy systematically. So who is trying to create hue and cry?
Right.
The people who are out of tax net. They are all the big shots. Either you can find from any field.
Right.
I'm not talking about one field. I'm not
Right.
blaming only the business. You can talk about the salary, you can talk about media, you can talk about anything. So they are trying to create a hue and cry. Because they were not paying the taxes, because they're trying to avoid the tax one and other way. If you look at the data, statistics of the people,
Right, right.
so most of the big shots, they are paying 15,000, 10,000. Why? One thing. Second thing, I just give you one more example.
Right.
From agriculture sector, everybody say that don't tax agriculture sector. The small farmer will be impacted. There is like the things like below the 12 acre or a certain income level, nobody will be taxed. And the most of the poor farmers, they are below the 12 acre, so they
Right.
will not be taxed. Who is trying to avoid this tax? The big landlords.
Right.
And one thing, they are avoiding tax, and then the other thing, what is happening? They are declaring their income from other sources, agricultural income, so they can
Right.
avoid the tax.
Right.
So the things are not so simple, you can say like that. When these big fishes are the people who are avoiding the tax net, they will be coming in the tax net. They will be trying to create the hue and cry. And they were saying like, look, they are poor are being impacted. Poor are not impacting, because person from the below the 4 lakh, he will not be able to pay. So how he will be impacted from the tax? One thing, and second thing, if you talk about the dollar,
Right.
in the increase in the depreciation of rupee, it not only just means that it's only depreciation. For example, from 100 to 125 rupees, that means you have to multiply this with the import bill of oil. You have to multiply this 25 rupees with the import bill of the LPG.
Right.
You have to multiply with every imports.
Right.
That means your inflation will increase. Either it's a gas, it's a petrol, and your electricity is at the point of the time is being produced. So more than the 60% is being produced from the fossil fuel, which we are importing.
Right.
That means the electricity prices you have to increase. Who made it happen to depreciate your dollar? It is the PTI or a current government or the previous government. I will not take the name of the any.
Right,
Because at that
but
time we were
really-
debating.
Yes, I know, but Shakeel sir, it's the question like, coming on to Irfan sir is not really who, it's right, whoever did it. The point is, even the Prime Minister said if you want to get the country on the right course, then these sacrifices will have to be made, and this is what we have right now. That's the real issue now.
These are not sacrifices, these are needed steps we have to take.
Right.
Even in the previous government we were saying like that, you have to take these measures.
We have
This
to
is-
be realistic now. We
we
have
have
to
to be-
take difficult
We have to come out of the
decisions,
politics.
Right,
We
right.
have
and
to
we
come-
have to face the reality.
We
Irfan
have to
sir, do
come
you
out of
think-
the politics.
Right.
In the previous government, what I am saying, so not only previous one, the
Right.
two governments, continuous governments, from 2008 to 2018. So how many taxpayers we lost? More than 1.1 million taxpayers. Why we lost that? Because we have the 5 amnesty schemes. If I have to pay the 10% tax, I know that after 2 years there would be amnesty scheme where I only have to pay 1%, 2%.
Right.
Why I pay the 10%, 17% like these taxes?
Right.
So these were the policies, not of the one political party.
But still now. So
Still no, we have to avoid these things. If we want to develop,
Right.
either me or you, we have to pay the taxes. If you look to the developed country, we always talk about they are giving this service, this service, this service. Look at the tax rate. Even in some countries,
In UK,
50% more than the 50%.
Right. Irfan Saab, Kamal is right, and so is Shakeel Saab. I'm sure you also agree with them, and so do I. But if we talk about politics, we have to also talk about the political realities of the country. Certainly, everybody wants to do the right thing as far as taxation is concerned, as far as economy is concerned, as far as putting the country back on the right path, towards prosperity is concerned. But do you think that as far as the opposition is concerned, what kind of a reaction can we expect, considering the fact that as far as the numbers are not really, as far as the PTI is concerned, the government is concerned, the numbers themselves are not very, very solid. How do you see that? Do you think it can have an impact?
Yeah, Mark on one side is an economist, another is a lady who is dealing with the what is that, madam? It's
Planning and
planning and development.
Planning, development and
yes,
reform.
yes. So in that sitting between them, going into those details that are required, I think some of that has been covered. But it's a fact that our current account deficit is huge difference between our imports and exports.
Right.
So one is the cosmetic measures that we always have been having once any government comes. But here it is a need that we make this country, our country, a destination that can attract investments.
Right, right.
Some of the measures that have been announced, like donations for Basha Dam or the dams, I mean, might be we might, and it's good that it is one of the key issues, very core issues that we are going to face, the acute shortage of water. But the thing is that I mean, it's still a donation. Instead of that, if we could have come up with steps that can generate income for us, that income can be in the form of investments that in the industries or whatever. Similarly, all other measures with which the state of economy, so that we can put that economy in a position that it can be sustainable, because it's the statistics that have been, every coming government, when they come, like this time when they came, they said that the loans that we got during the last 10 years, it is much more, I mean, double than we had during the last 65 years. So this is something which is, where does that loan is going? And even the people in Pakistan, they are always ready to cooperate. But the thing is that you would have to, I mean, come up with something which is with which they can see that their future is getting better. When it comes to politics, that is, of course, in Parliament.
But the Prime Minister said that you have to trust him for things
yes,
to get better.
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
Right.
That if you fail to come up with those expectations, like in the past, if you can recall, in 1997, there was a scheme, Karz Utaro Mulk Sawaro,
in which people,
the people they
contributed heavily.
And even I know the overseas Pakistani, the professionals,
right,
who had been generously contributing, but at the end, when they didn't see where that money has gone, so that loses the their trust. So here it is needed that since the people, I mean, the votes, number of votes these PTI has got, that also has the expectations, the same expectations.
But of course, the PTI is relying on the trust factor. They're relying on their votes. They're relying on the fact that they were voted in based on that trust.
Yes, and the major issue for a common man is their pate.
Right.
I mean, it's the economy. So this is what is expected from them. And
but what about the politics of it?
The politics, of course, there will be opposition, especially when you will have cuts on the development sector and the schemes, especially when many of those schemes, they are related to Punjab. So of course PMLN, which is the largest party, and they have the leader of opposition in National Assembly. But the thing is that you have to face that, and the PTI has to be ready and to give them in a cogent way, I mean, so that a convincing way they have to convince the people. And when it comes to the number of votes, because it is not going in the Senate.
Right.
the budget is the
Only
only,
going to go through
at National
the
Assembly.
National
So
Assembly, right.
it had to be routed through Senate as well, it would have been difficult for PTI given their numbers. But in National Assembly, they can manage that. Similarly, in National Assembly, it's People's Party might be. I mean, if they work on them, I think earlier, before that previous budget was presented by the previous government, even at that time, they had been proposing that instead of giving a budget for whole year, the current government might. And this, at that time, I think PTI should have also spoken on that.
Right.
That yes, I mean, it would have been better that we leave it to the next government, because in the financial year, the start of the financial year, that was the time, I mean, the elections were held. So PTI has to be ready. There will be some opposition, but I think they can make it easily.
Right, Kanwal, you also mentioned the fact that the Prime Minister Imran Khan wants to take everybody along. He wants there to be, the trust factor is a huge thing as far as getting the country, taking the measures that are needed to get the country back on track. And Irfan Saab mentioned this, Shakeel Saab also mentioned this, that we need to make sacrifices to get where we want. Do you think that the efforts that are being made towards getting all the sections of society on board will be successful?
Definitely. When there is ownership from the head of the government, and he's trying to take on board everyone, and you have heard his speech today.
Right.
The salient features were quite, appealing. He was regaining the confidence of the bureaucracy, telling them that, okay, fine, if you take some measures and if you take some decisions, and if you commit some mistakes, meanwhile doing all this process, so we are there to protect you. It's okay if you make mistakes. It's not that deliberately you do something wrong or try to manipulate the system, but if you try to implement the reforms which the government is already focusing on, so during that process, if something goes wrong, it's okay, everybody can make mistakes.
Do you think we'll see some specific measures as far as the bureaucracy is concerned?
Again, please.
Do you think there will be some specific measures expected that will have an impact on the bureaucracies?
Definitely, because there's a reform committee who is going to work, and I think the bureaucry will welcome it.
Dr.
Yes.
Ishrat Hussain, he has been appointed as
Appointed.
advisor.
There's already a task force, a
yes.
reform committee who is working on it on different sectors. When you were talking about the regaining of the confidence and getting along everyone on board, you have seen the statement of COAS and then the Prime Minister on the 6th of September. That was very good.
Right.
That coming from the Prime Minister, standing in the GHQ, telling everyone that there is no civil military
divide. Right.
Yes, there's
Right.
no divide,
Right.
and there's nothing of that sort, civil military on same page or not. Again, you have seen him going to ISI headquarters and taking the briefings for 8 hours, then taking the civil service, the bureaucracy into the confidence. He means business. He wants to take everyone along, telling them that, okay, fine, I'm not the chairman of PTI now, I'm the Prime Minister of Pakistan. We have to lead the nation towards the right direction, and everybody has to contribute. Everyone has the share, and everyone has the work to perform. So that's the message, and telling them the realities and giving them the margin to work, and to if we give them space and then assign them and attribute them their tasks, they will be doing it with much more confidence, and also assuring them that there will be no political influence and interference. That's a big thing. We don't want to have more cases like Hassan Fawad or Ahmed Hachima. So we have brilliant bureaucrats who wants to work, who are patriots. So there's a wrong perception, I must say, that bureaucracy don't want to work, military is intervening. We have to put all the institutions into their place, give them space, give them confidence, and give them respect. And then in return, we should expect performance. And I think government is trying to bring all these institutions who are already working in that arena, and I hope this will give result.
Right.
I'm
Maruf,
very
Let me come back
if
to
you
right.
let me add to this, because we have been, most of us have been dealing with the bureaucracy, but as a journalist, because we have to visit different offices and get for our information. In the past, in the previous government, there was a committee, special committee on reforms, civil services reforms. Nothing happened. Now this time, a person who has written books on that, he has been appointed as advisor with the status of almost a federal minister.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's a big responsibility.
Right.
The thing is that our bureaucratic system, to be very candid, it's not they are capable or not, but the whole system is obsolete now.
Right.
It's not up to the mark of the new
present
era, the
times
present
now.
times. If you go, the same people, when they are working in private sector, they perform really well. But
Right.
when it comes to the government sector, because our system is it has so many bottlenecks.
But Imran Khan, I mean, the Prime Minister also spoke about, saying that when in the private sector, the salaries versus, the government service, there's a huge, as far as there's a huge gap as far as the salaries are concerned. And he said that perhaps he talked about paying them, to according to their capability, according to their rank, so that, there's no need for, he spoke about corruption, he spoke about, and other underhand means of getting that money. That's
Maruf, corruption is another one thing. I mean, it's one of the core issues that PTI had been, since their inception, they have been highlighting that issue. But the corruption is more than corruption, is the systematic. I mean, because our bureaucracy, it's still running in the era that was like 50 years back, 40 years back, the paper system where
But-
every file and
right, that is true. I agree. Irfan sir, but the point is they're also being paid much less. I mean, if we're talking about
no, it's not,
people
madam, paying
of the-
less. The thing is that they in government servants, I mean, they are called government servants, but their behavior, their attitude, it is like the rulers. Even if you go
Right,
to
and
any
we've had
office,
numerous-
every office,
right.
you go there and you would see that
I would like to add something.
Right.
We need to, change the perception and the style and the perks which are being offered. I think if we successfully materialize all the perks, then I think the income is
salary
much
would
better.
go.
The salary
Right.
will be much better.
But even
the
in some
protocol
cases,
system
even,
and unnecessary
Imran Khan
staff.
himself, he recounted an incident about asking a civil servant whether his children go to ages, and I'm sure you all heard him, and he said that no, he couldn't afford it on his salary. So, mentioning that and then saying that perhaps these things need to be redressed so that there is no reason, not that there is ever any reason for corruption, but
Maruf,
Shakeel sahab, that-
this should be considered in every sector. Once we are back on track, if we offer handsome salaries to the doctors, those who are working abroad, they will
then they
come
don't
back.
want to come. Exactly.
And this
So they
is
need
what
to
we
be
have
given-
done in KP. So he's right. If you appreciate the abilities in monetary terms and give them what they deserve,
what according
they
to
will
their
put in their best.
Right, their performance will increase
Yeah,
when
but
the
I
rewards
think
are
if
more.
we materialize all the perks we are offering,
Right.
and as he said, this system is not up to date
Right,
with
it
the
needs to
present
change.
needs.
Right,
So
it
we
needs to
need to revamp the entire system, and I hope,
That
as
it will.
Ghouri Sahab has also mentioned,
Right.
we have got a committee, and slowly, steadily, you will see the changes will be, occurring.
Right, I want to go on to another issue. Shakeel sahab,
I just want to add here, then you can go.
right,
Look at the perks of the civil bureaucracy. House rent, their vehicles, their other perks, their the pension or their
right,
Yeah,
right. We've
unnecessary
exhausted. Right, we've exhausted.
Unnecessary
They are not
stuff.
underpaid.
Right, okay.
In
Well,
the modern era,
according to the words of the Prime Minister, they're perhaps underpaid,
modern era.
underpaid, but I will let you disagree with that. But let's come to another issue. I mean, we've exhausted bureaucracy. Let's, Kanwal mentioned the civil-military divide. She said that there will, it should be seen, and it has been seen till now, the very new government that's come in, that there doesn't seem to be any disparity between the military and the government. But another issue that's very important is when we talk about money, when we talk about funding, when we talk about the very limited kitty that we have as far as our whole budget is concerned. A lot of that goes to the military also. Do you think that there will be some sort of cuts there also?
Look, first of all, I have never been concerned about the civil military relations. I always concerned about who is doing good for the country. Either
Right,
it's a
of course.
military or it's a civil. So everybody is a part of that. It's like a family. In family, you don't need to always be to agree on everything. So you have a difference of opinion. But the ultimate thing is your family must grow. The same is a country. One thing. Second thing, when people say that they have so many funds, I couldn't understand the war they are fighting, the place where we are situated, and the borders we are confronting the challenges,
Right.
and the way so our army is coping there. Not only our army but other civil agencies also. So one thing and second thing, army is also coming in an area which is contributing towards our exports like the defense production. So I don't foresee, like, have to look at that. If they are getting unnecessary funding, or the funding and the perks, or the funding like that which we feel like that there's a not needs but they are just for the sake of some celebration like that. So then we can say like luxuries, we can say that there must be a cut. That would be no doubt. Either it's a military or it's a civil. But we have to analyze before giving the blanket statement.
Right, of course. I'm not giving a blanket statement. I'm saying
And so
that
I'm
like
just-
in every sector.
I'm not talking about you.
We
The
have
people,
to, right.
people.
But in every sector, when we are going to look at the expenditure, we're going to look at how much goes to each sector. Then of course, military is a stakeholder.
So we have to look at that.
Right.
What we needed, because we are facing the major problem of terrorism.
Right.
Look at the situation in
Right, of course.
this region.
Of course, the
So
importance of
our
military
borders,
is something
our
nobody is debating.
our borders are not safe. They are expanding from
Of
the
course.
Afghanistan to the India. So everything is happening. So we should not debate unnecessary cuts. We should talk about if there is some luxury, they must be cut. Either it's army, either it's a civil. We have to talk about that. One thing and second thing. We should not say like that there is like a fashion. There is a cut or everything is cut. Like maybe in education, we don't need to have a cut. Either maybe we are giving the extra money. We don't have to go there for the cut,
Right.
because education must, like health. We cannot afford a cut in the education health sector. Either we have the money or not, because the life, basically, it's not about the person is being killed by a gun or by a lack of medicine. Then the both way person has been killed.
Right.
So we have to take care of the life.
Right, everybody's. You're
So
right. I
we have
agree
to
with you.
identify in our economy the areas where we can make a cut, where the life of the people is not being so much impacted.
Right,
So we
exactly.
should not be like do it like a fashion law. No, we are going to cut across the board.
No, of course.
So like Imran Khan, our prime minister. So like other ministers, they are trying to say like that we not use that these are the luxurious cars or the luxurious houses like that. That is good, because it should be happen like that, because they are servant. They are not our ruler. In a democracy, nobody is a ruler. Like they were talking about the bureaucracy, they behave like that. In a global era, in a global arena, so now the bureaucrats are being picked from their capabilities. Even somebody is, they have to post it somewhere. They give the open bid. The open son like that. We need this person like a consultant,
Right.
and they hire it. We don't need to go to be sustain this old-fashioned
Yes.
system like that, which is happening for
Right.
so many
Irfan
years.
Saab, do you think that there can be cuts on the military spending also, if there is indeed, like Shakeel Saab is saying, if it is, if it can be done?
Maruk, I think when we talk about civil-military relations, and a statement that is a cliche now, that is they are on same page. The thing is that we have to see that we have to be realistic first of all, that we have a very small pie, and in that pie, that is our economy. From that you have to distribute resources to
Right,
everybody.
right.
So you cannot please everybody, that is for sure. Like in the current situation, already there have been statements that coming from provinces that there might be cut on NFC. So these things they continue, but the thing is, when we call they are on one page or not, the thing is that we have to see that which are the issues that become bone of contention. Sometimes we have seen that in many areas, which are the civilian areas, that they should have been dealt by the civilians, but when they fail to do so, in that case you have to call the military. And once you call them, and after some time then people start talking about their role. like in case of law and order, it is the responsibility of the civilian, mainly the police. We have seen that when it was out of control, in that case you have to call the military. Similarly, in judicial case front, we had to have the military courts set up for hardcore criminals. The reason was that our existing judicial system, it was not coming up with the solution. So that
Right.
so in that
that's
case,
because
when
our institutions all need to be revamped.
yes,
They all
so
need to
so
be.
the thing is that once these things are there, where
Right,
the
right.
role of military, that is not their actual role, but you
Oh,
call
right.
them, and after that
Perhaps will be
people
decreased,
start.
you're saying.
So the
Right.
thing is that every institution, be it the civilians or
Right.
the military, they have to think and they have to be in their role, but the civilian governments, because they are the ones who have to take the decisions. We have seen that when there is even the census exercise, you had to call the military. Even for polio, you have to call them, because the
What
reason
about
is
the election process?
the election process.
Right,
So
right, right.
once, because
Nothing
your
is
other
possible without them.
institutions, they have failed. So
Right.
we have to strengthen other institutions so they are capable enough to run their affairs. So in that case, if the military still intervenes, still what you call it,
No, it's not. We're not talking about
So,
intervention, but you're
no,
right. that
not the direct
there
intervention.
will
I mean, in
probably
their
be, but you're right. As the institutions will develop, there will perhaps be less. The role of the military will perhaps be decreased as an emergency, initiative that is taken every time an institution fails. Perhaps we will see less of that. But moving on, I have limited time. I do want to talk about the funeral of Kalsom Nawaz today that was held. She's been buried, and I also would like to mention that there were a lot of rumors surrounding her sickness, and which has considering that you're a journalist yourself, considering that should allow us to reflect on our journalism, on our ethics as members of the press, whether giving out news, there should be some sort of the journalism itself, there should be some ethics to it. I want to talk about that also. Your comments on that, Irfan?
Yes, it was. I mean, for Sharif family, PMLN, and for the country as well, because she was a lady who earned respect. We had seen her. I mean, whenever there was a difficult time for her family or for the politics of PMLN, she was there. And once that crisis phase was over, she used to go back. You are right that we as journalists, we should be we should be, I mean, we should be sensitive enough, I would call, that
Right.
before giving that news. But the thing is that our society has polarized so much. Those statements, they started from the politicians. I won't name those politicians. They are big names. Some of them are big names,
Right.
and that because of that, I mean, even the parties, they had developed differences, major differences. So,
But Irfan sir, even though I agree with you, I mean, even though that they started the irresponsibility, the inhumane, I would say,
Yeah.
when you're insensitive to somebody's sickness, terminal illness, and the statements, wherever they started from, they were picked up, they were debated, there were snide
Can I add
comments were
something?
made. The insensitivity was shown.
Can I
I'm
add
sure.
something?
Right,
Sure.
of course. Please
It's
go
not about the journalism, it's about society.
yes.
ahead. Right.
It's about our behavior. Like, I don't want to use very strong word, but I cannot help myself to stop from here. It's a pathetic. Like Itazaz Hassan, now he is apologizing. Other politicians which are from our parties, I'm not saying one
Right.
party.
All
So
parties.
even, she was a great lady. She showed the courage when it was needed. Not on the statements, but she showed the courage when it was needed.
Right.
And there are very few people in the history who show the courage when it is being needed.
Right.
She was a great lady. But even the PMLN, all the party, PTI, all parties are trying to score their own things, like on their own way. I think she needs a tribute. We must pray for her soul, and we must give some space to the Sharif family at this point of time. There is a rest of life you have for the politics. You can
Right.
play politics.
Right.
But
Some things are
as a
above
society,
politics.
we must be apologetic as a
Right.
society. We have come to that level.
Considerate, yeah.
कि we are not sparing an ill lady who was fighting a battle of life and death.
Right.
So we must be, as a society, we have to take some measures, not only journalism or the politics.
Right.
Everybody is responsible for that, including myself, you, sir,
Right.
everybody.
I agree with you, Shakeel sir, that we're all responsible. As a society, we need to perhaps reflect on our own sensitivity, our own empathy to individuals who are going through such trying times. But I disagree in the sense that as far as professional ethics are concerned, I think that we can divide as far as, you know, we can draw a line and talk about journalism, we can talk about the press, we can talk about anchors on television who should have shown empathy, who should have shown sensitivity as part of their professional conduct, which was missing.
Maruk, I think when we say journalism or the media, it's a very generalized term. I mean, in media, you would see all sort of people, different organizations. They have their own. I don't know if they have their editorial systems or not. But the thing is that we as a society, I agree with him, because we also come from the same society.
Right.
And there is a
And it's the
polarization,
mindset, I think.
and the
I agree.
polarization
It's
that
the
we have.
mindset.
I mean, for a journalist, the basic thing is, I mean, it's our basic education is that you have to be impartial.
But when you see,
you're,
exactly, and when you see
have to
this
be
kind of conduct,
objective, and those are the basic principles. But I don't know how many of
and
us.
that there is a level beyond
Yes,
which I will not go
and
as part
also-
of my professional ethics, part of
And-
my
I would
professional
like to
conduct.
make comment on this.
Yes, please.
First of all, I want to offer my condolence to the family and the entire nation, because she has enjoyed this status of being the first lady for 3 times. So we owe her big times. And whoever leaves this world, we should give tribute and we should respect. As Muslim and as a human, I think it's our responsibility to show the sensitivity and to show the respect. Secondly, I would say, as long as the media is concerned, it's not about just the people who are suffering from illness or whatsoever. There should be some lines drawn.
Right.
There should be some moral ethics which should strictly be adopted by all the institutions, including media, may it be print, may it be electronic, or may it be a social media.
Right.
There should be some lines. Beyond that, nobody should cross. And even the anchors or even whoever is dealing with the media,
Right.
I think this privacy, the breach of privacy, and then making some comments which hurt people in the time of agony or the tough time or trials. So even if they are worst of your enemies, if you are fighting a battle, even battles have some rules
Right.
and rules of conduct.
Right.
Like
I
both
said,
sides, yes.
right,
So
they must
I
be
think
seen.
this should be a message across board, that the moral ethics and the lines should be drawn properly, and
Right.
they should not be crossed, whatever the case scenario is.
Right.
Talking about the army, I think there will be no big cutoff, because we are dealing with the enemies. We have to keep in mind what technologies they have
Right.
and what
Unfortunately,
capacity
I'm
they
out
have.
of time. Kamal, thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us today. Thank you for being with us. Shakeel, Ahmed, Ramay Saab, thank you for your time. Irfan, Ghouri Saab, thank you for being with us. Kamal, thank you for joining us today. Certainly, as far as the cuts are concerned, as far as whatever measures necessary are concerned, as a nation, we should all be together, and we should all be united in trying to get the country back on the ground, trying to get the economy back on the ground. Whatever measures are necessary, we should all be standing behind the government to make sure that whatever measures needed can be taken to make sure that the country is definitely on the path of prosperity. Let's hope that that happens. Let's hope and wish for the best. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.